Hey everybody, welcome to the 77 Group YouTube channel. This week we're talking leadership, and my name is Mitch Goddard, partner of the 77 Group. And today we're talking about why it's important to have a loving heart if you want to be an effective leader. You know, Rick Warren, who is the pastor at Saddleback Church, he's the founding pastor there. Huge church down in Orange County, California. And one of his quotes that I like, he says, the first job of leadership is to love people. Leadership without love is manipulation. And I think if we give that a hard look, we would agree. So coming this week from chapter 5 of my book, 77 Principles, Tips, and Takeaways for Exceptional Leaders, Chapter 5, Lead with Love. And that's coming up next here on the 77 Group channel. Now over to you, Frank.
Hi, everybody. I'm Frank Leone, and I'm happy to be supporting Mitch during this week's episode number 18. And just a couple of very brief announcements. Number one, a reminder that every one of these episodes represents a chapter in one of the two books that Mitch and I have either wrote or in the process of completing right now. Each of the books have 77 different chapters, and each week we are covering one of them. 77 times 2 is 154, and that's how many episodes we'll hopefully have on this series by the time we close down the shop on the back end. My book, and those of you with strong eyes can see it back behind my shoulder here, is entitled 77 Ways to Perfect Your Communication Skills, Enhancing Your Personal and Professional Relationships. And it's going very, very well. I think it's a great book. I'm very, very pleased with it. And it's available on our website. You see the title of our website on the top of the screen, www.77grp.com. But it's also available on Amazon and barnesandnoble.com and target.com and most of the other platforms that are out there in hardcover and softcover, in ebook at only $5.99, a very modest price point for those more budget-conscious group out there, and also on audiobook. So I encourage you to move forward and take a look at it. It is receiving very good reviews from people. And Mitch's book, which is a couple months away from publication, is called 77 Principles, Tips, and Takeaways for Exceptional Leaders. And each of the chapters that he's describing during his sessions represent a chapter of that book. A couple other things. We encourage you to leave a question or a comment at the end of this presentation. And we do pick out one question that we receive every week and announce that person and answer the question. And that person, if they are interested, we offer them a free 15-minute telephone consultation with us. So we'll get to that as well. And then finally, the classic but never insufficiently important to mention is that please subscribe. We have, last I looked, I think we're over 400, Mitch, is that right? Over 400?
Yeah, over 400. Yep.
So we're doing real good in that regard. And also like us. We love to be liked. I remember as an infant of a couple weeks old how much I enjoyed it, and I haven't changed since. And then again to leave your comments. So that is it, and I'll turn it back to Mitch Goddard to talk about his topic of the week, Lead with Love.
Lead with love. Yes, Frank. So now, I don't want to come off all weird, all mushy here, but and let me just reference Merriam-Webster, who defines love as unselfish, loyal, and benevolent concern for the good of another. Now, there are other definitions to love that really have nothing to do with today's topic. But, I've really had a great privilege of assembling and leading a wide variety of teams and organizations. And every one of them was loaded with mission-driven, applicable talents, expertise, and experience and all adequately resourced with the tools of success and a well-defined mission or objective. Now, when I got to healthcare, which is about 15 years ago, with minimal training at best, maybe some field first aid training, I could put pressure on a wound and rub dirt in it, all just the basics. When I got into healthcare, I found myself leading or feeling completely clueless at times about the kind of work, responsibilities, and training of the people that reported to me. So I really had to lean on surrounding myself with quality people that I could rely on. But before I could get to that point, knowing that I had really little, if anything, to offer that was salient in the way of my experience in healthcare to these, highly trained healthcare professionals, clinicians, and so on, I had to find some way to break through any barriers. And, for instance, a typical conversation early on for me was, like, oh, so you're a medical assistant? Yeah, well, that's awesome. Go do what you do, okay, and be really good at it, and hope for the best. Of course, people would look back and go, who's this joker? He doesn't know anything about what we do here. But I did come to realize after a while, had my little light bulb moment, that one common characteristic everybody in the organization had was that they had beating hearts, they had feelings, they were all made of flesh and bones, and they came fully assembled, ready to do their work. So with that as a common denominator, I figured that, well, while I didn't have the tools and training and know-how, I could very well establish relationships with these people, and over time let them know that I cared about them, and really try to cement that bond, which would buy me enough time to learn more about what they did, what they're responsible for, and most importantly, how I could support them. So I went with full intentionality and full deliberate methods to get to know who they were, learn something about them, and really at its core, just let them know that I cared about them. And in doing so, we were able to forge a bond, forge a relationship that established a measure of trust, a measure of respect. We truly cared about each other, and it was a two-way street for us where we could cement our relationship and move things forward. So I wasn't thought of as a joker anymore. I was thought of as someone that cared at least as much about them as I did about the organization and its mission. And with that, I will roll right into tip number 1 this week with regard to leading with love as an exceptional leader. So tip number 1 is start with knowing yourself. And what I mean about that is that, understand what kind of qualities you look for, or what qualities you find embraceable for leaders. When you can start with what's important to you, what it is that helps you build trust, you find a measure of comfort so that you feel free to get to work and not worry that your boss is looking over your shoulder. What are those qualities? And then adopt those qualities. Because there's probably not a whole lot different, human nature being what it is, that what's important to you, the things that you're looking for and you value when you're being led, is probably close to what the people around you are looking for. And then from that point, you could start forging that bond, forging that relationship, providing that leadership and support that your people need to go out and do great work every day.
Question for you, Mitch. What if you're on planet Venus and the rest of the world's on planet Mars?
Well, then that kind of leads into one of our follow-up tips. Then if you're speaking a completely different language, really, and as you know, Frank, healthcare has its own language. Then it's important for you to do your homework. Also, it's important for you to find the gentle hearts that are open to you probing to find out, what are the things I need to do here? Ask some questions. What is it that the group is looking for? How can I be the leader that they need so they can perform and do great things, compassionate things every day? And how can I support them the best? So in that Venus and Mars scenario, it's time to be humble, dumb up a little bit, and go find resources that are going to enable you to grow close to your people.
Tip number 2, Mitch.
All right, so tip number 2 leads right into a good follow-up to your question. Commit to getting to know your people. All right, so what does that mean? Well, yeah, commit to getting to know your people means doing the little things. Don't just brush by them in the hallway. Take some time, engage them in conversation. Now, understood that, as you are that alien from Mars landing on planet Venus, that they may, be a little shy, a little guarded as you approach them, but there are things you can do to break down those barriers. Number 1, approach with a smile. Number 2, make sure you know their name. Know who your people are. Take a look at their job description so you have some kind of an idea of what they're responsible for. Ask them questions. So what do you think? Well, what are some barriers to you be doing even better work than you're already doing? Smile, pay them a compliment, and ask them, how is it that you can best support them? Those walls will start to come down some, and then you'll find new opportunities as those barriers start to come down, new opportunities to get to know more about them and to grow closer to them. And also, don't be shy about sharing a little something about yourself. If you find that you have something in common with them, share that with them. Hey, I've got grandkids too. My youngest grandson is in Little League right now. And if that's, for instance, if that's something that's common with one of the people that you're privileged to lead, go ahead, go down that road, share that. Those kinds of commonalities just bring that bond a little closer, and it's a good platform to move even deeper into your relationship.
Yeah, I think it's really important to strive to remember what people tell you from one casual meeting to the next. So if you're speaking with somebody and you ask her, how was your weekend? And she says, well, it was really wild and crazy. I had to get my daughter ready and bring her out to college, although sort of a mood issue right now. But then the next time you see her, I think a really good leader has the ability to sort of say, well, how's your daughter doing in college?
Yep.
To tie one to another. Because after a while, it's, oh boy, that Mitch is a nice, friendly guy, always asks me questions, but he doesn't really remember what we talked about from one casual get-together to the next. So the more you can get to know them and string together information, the better, in my opinion.
Yep, and to follow that point up, or to add to your point, it's very important, because otherwise those casual conversations really amount to nothing more than blather. You really cement, like you say, Frank, the relationship, or at least the foundation of the relationship, when you truly remember not only their name, but something specific that they told you that you can, like you said, how's your daughter doing in college? How's that new car that you talked about you just picked up? Whatever it is, because it was important enough for them to mention it, It is important enough for you to hold on to that piece of information and revisit it at a later time, because that, like you say, it goes from, oh, what a nice guy Mitch is, to, wow, he really pays attention to what I say to him.
And cares.
Yep, and cares. And that's the big part of loving people as you lead them.
Tip number 3.
All right, so tip number 3, use love to inspire. And really what we're talking about here is that inspiration, has many points of manifestation. And, when people feel inspired or feel that you care about them, then they start to believe that what they have to do, say, and contribute matters to the big picture. And more importantly, it matters to you as their leader. They believe that not only that what they do matters, but they become even more inspired. They become more confident. And when the love dynamic begins to take hold, that builds more trust. People feel safe enough to strengthen their commitment to the cause, the mission, the work that they do. They're safe to express their creative ideas, so creativity blossoms, and performance can take off like a rocket over time. So use love to inspire. Like you just mentioned, Frank, when they know that you care, right? The old saying, people don't really care how much they know unless they know how much you care. And when they feel like you care about them and that they're important to you, the organization, and to the group, then, things can really start to take off in a positive way, not only for that individual, but for the whole group, because you've got a group of individuals that are sharing that kind of inspiration.
Okay, let's hypothetically assume that I'm working for you. You run into me in the cafeteria. Concrete example of something you could say or do in that short encounter with me in the cafeteria that would inspire me.
Well, I think I can reference something that you've done recently. For instance, Frank, that chapter on communication was brilliant. Again, approach with a smile, offer a compliment, and that positive reinforcement is always a great inspiration for people to do more great things. Hey, Frank, the work you did on that project really turned out great. Here's some great feedback we got on it. And that's a lot of that has to do with the efforts that you put into that project. So great work. Attaboys, patting people on the back, letting them know that you appreciate and value their work really is a great way to ignite that inspiration.
Yeah, and I would also, from my experience, add a specific. In other words, don't say great work. Say great work. Because it really showed blah blah blah. So because there's a lot of people out there that tell everybody they're great and then turn their back and never think about you again.
Right. And again, yeah, be specific. That work on that project, the outcome of that work, the results of that work. It also enabled the next department to take the next step with that project. You're right. Be specific with it, and just make sure people know that they're valued and appreciated.
Tip number 4.
All right, tip number 4. Again, talking about inspiration. Inspired people have a platform to give the performance of their lives. So again, we value what we love, and people feel loved. People that feel loved feel valued. So when people feel valued, they're inspired. And again, that whole love dynamic kicks in. Inspired people are far more likely to give the performance of their lives, and it doesn't have to be any more complicated than just, what we just spoke about. Let them know what they mean to the team, what they mean to the mission, how grateful you are to have an individual like Frank Leone on the team, and your contributions are so meaningful to the big picture here. Thank you so much. And when people, again, feel valued, their inspiration soars, their productivity goes through the roof. And then another great dynamic is they start to inspire others to do good work. So now that whole collective, that culture of encouragement, love, inspiration, value of one another really sets the team dynamic into a great a place where great creativity, great results, and wonderful things start to happen.
This may be blindsiding you, probably not expecting the question, but how about the greatest performance of your life? What inspired you? It doesn't have to be a specific performance, but what inspired you to be your best?
Well, I would say on several occasions, Frank, that when I saw the teams that I lead do great things, and I'm overusing the word great, but when I saw people hustle, when I saw people care so much about the work they do and care so much about each other, I knew as the leader that I will move heaven and earth never to let these people down. And so I guess in a nutshell, inspired people inspire me. People that give their all to a worthwhile cause, trying to make a difference, that I have the privilege of leading, or I have the privilege of just collaborating with, is a tremendous inspiration for me. Not only because I don't want to let anybody down, and not only because I want to make my contribution, but because this culture of sincere compassion and greatness is something that really lights my fire, makes me want to leap out of bed every morning. And I'll tell you a very quick story of someone who I witnessed really sell out, meaning they gave all they could in a healthcare episode, a life and death episode, to save a life. And this was someone who I was having an emergency nurse. I was having a brief, casual conversation with. We had drummed up a friendship over time. We never, to that point, had never worked directly with each other. We did some years later. But all of a sudden, the PA system goes off. Attention all emergency personnel, report to Bay 6. GSW inbound. GSW gunshot wound inbound. And I watched this nurse, a male nurse, drop everything, didn't even excuse himself for me, and just poof, he was gone. Now, I said, okay, great, he's doing his job. And I happened to have to go walk around to another meeting room, which was just beyond the emergency vehicle bays, where as I came around this way, here comes this nurse bolting out of the door as the ambulance is backing into the bay, leaps into the ambulance, straddles the patient, and starts going to town with CPR and life-saving techniques. And that was such an inspiring moment for me to witness that. Not 60 seconds earlier, he's just all, hey, yeah, what's happening? You know, kind of a boring day at the ER, to turning it on, compassion in overdrive, and using his skills and techniques to go save a life. And boom, that was one of those moments, several moments like that in my life. But that's one that quickly comes to mind that was so inspiring to me, saying, I can do more. I can do a lot in this industry, because my heart, my compassion muscles just got stronger by watching that.
Okay, let's close it out with tip 5.
Tip 5. Okay, so just do it. All right, very briefly, tip number 5. Leaders secure enough in themselves can express love and encouragement to those they lead or influence and build or grow on that emotional bank account between them. Again, just using some of the methods that we talked about already. And that's not the end of the list. There are so many things we can do to express our love for people, to express how much we care for them, how much we support them and value them, paying compliments, referencing the great things they do, not only at work, but in their private life. I've worked with a lot of single moms that I admire for their dedication, not only to their children, but also to their trade. And knowing those kinds of things about them and letting them know that you value them because of how much they give, both at work and at home, and what it means and how that influences others is remarkable. And so take the time, if you're secure in yourself, let these people know you love them, let them know you care, and that you value what they do and what they mean, not only to the external things, but what they mean to you personally, the inspiration you draw from them and how much you appreciate them. That builds that emotional bank account, builds those bonds, strengthens that relationship, and really it makes you or helps you to be recognized as an exceptional leader.
Okay, well, all good stuff from somebody that has walked that very walk many, many times. Next week, I'm back on again. I guess we'll be doing episode number 19, and it is called Show Your Audience Sincere Appreciation when you're speaking before a group. And it's a very interesting topic as well, so I hope you'll join us for that. Again, remember to subscribe and to comment and like, and remember to submit a question. And Mitch, let's just go back briefly. Could you repeat the 5 tips? We can maybe scroll them across the screen.
Sure. Starting with tip number 1, start with knowing yourself. Tip number 2, commit to getting to know your people. Tip number 3, use love to inspire. Tip number 4, know that inspired people have a platform to give the performance of their lives. And number 5, just do it. Just love them. Let them know you value them. And just a final takeaway here on all this. Love is arguably the most positive and powerful human emotion, and one of the cornerstones of fruitful and lasting relationships. It always outworks hate, outworks contempt, dissension. It wins every time it's in the room. So exceptional leaders know this, and they genuinely make a point intentionally, deliberately, of loving and showing love for their teams, because as a result, those relationships grow strong, and productivity and performance goes right through the roof.
Okay, and we're down to the very last seconds of our allotted time here, but I believe you should have a question from somebody that you want to share.
I do, Frank, thanks. Question winner from episode 14, which was from chapter 25 of my book, Get Organized and Be Prepared. This came from Brandon P. from Nashville, Tennessee, who actually reached out to me on LinkedIn and asked to become to connect with me. So he sent me a PM on LinkedIn, and he starts out with, another great episode, guys. So apparently he's been watching for a while, which is encouraging. His question basically is, any other tips for staying organized and being prepared? And just the first one, Brandon, that came to mind was, it's okay to sacrifice a little sleep sometime. If you've got something big coming up, maybe you need to wake up an hour earlier. So you're not behind the power curve. You're not chasing it, but you're well in front of it. You're prepared, you're organized, and you're ready to meet whatever big thing you got going that day. It's okay. You can catch up on that sleep on the weekend. Clinically, they say you can't do it, but you can get your rest later. Stay on top of things. And if you got to give up a little sleep, do so. You'll appreciate it later because you won't be chasing your tail the rest of the day.
And how about a final personal thought to share with your audience?
Okay, real quick, keeping in theme, my personal thought this week is make your circle of influence your circle of loving influence, because love is the undisputed language of emotional intelligence. And we'll get into that a little deeper in 2 weeks when I come back and take the lead when we talk about emotional intelligence, why it's important to know the condition of your flock. Back to you, Frank.
Thank you, Mitch, and thank you everybody out there for spending some time with us again. And we hope to see you next week. But thank you very much, and thank you, Mitch, for your usual A+ performance.
Thank you, Frank. We'll see you all next time.